Hi everyone, I apologize for the late uploading of the video. I had some problems with my computer, but I'm here now. In today's class, we will work on the senses, but we will focus on the human senses. So, let's go. Now we can see the contents of today's lessons. First, we're going to talk about receptors. We're going to talk about what is a receptor and what types of receptors are there. And then we're going to talk of each human sense. So we're going to talk about touch, sight, hearing, balance, smell, and taste. So let's start with receptors. So first, let's talk about receptors. A receptor is a specialized structure that receive stimuli in the internal and external environment. Remember that we can feel or perceive a stimuli in our body that is internal, for instance, pain, and we can perceive a stimuli from our external environment, like sounds, light, the smell of something. So that receptors are that specialized cells that receive different stimuli and send signals to our brain or our nervous system. That signal is called nerve impulse. Now, we already know what a receptor is. Now, we're going to talk about the different types of receptors. Different types of receptors receive different kinds of stimuli. So let's go to talk about mechanoreceptors. These receptors respond to mechanical forces such as pressure, roughness, vibration, and stretching. Most of these receptors are found in the skin, and they are needed to the sense of touch. But we have mechanoreceptors also in our inner ear. They allow us to hear and to maintain the balance. This type of receptors responds to mechanical forces. That is important. Then we're going to talk about thermoreceptors. These thermoreceptors respond to variation in temperature. They are found mostly in the skin and detect temperatures that are above or below body temperature. Or we can know if something is cold or is warm or is hot. Finally, we have the nociceptors. Nociceptors respond to potentially damaging stimuli. So they detect if we hurt or damage our body, and we usually perceive this stimuli as pain. So now we're going to continue with another types of receptors. Another receptors are photoreceptors that detect and respond to light. Most photoreceptors are found in our eyes, and they are needed for the sense of sight or vision. We have the chemoreceptors. These chemoreceptors respond to certain chemicals. They are found mainly in the taste buds on our tongue, and they are needed to the sense of taste. But we have chemoreceptors in our nasal passages in our nose. So in our nose, they are needed for the sense of smell. In other animals, there are another types of receptors. For instance, birds have magnetoreceptors that allow them to geolocate in the earth. And for instance, sharks has electroreceptors. That electroreceptors allow to sharks detect differences in the electricity in the water. So they can feel some prey using that receptors, so they have another different sense. Now we're going to talk about human senses. Now we're going to talk about touch. Touch is the ability to sense pressure, vibration, temperature, pain, and other tactile stimuli. These type of stimuli are detected by mechanoreceptors, thermoreceptors, and nociceptors all over the body, principally in our skin. These receptors are especially concentrated, so we have more of these receptors in our tongue, lips, face in general, the palms of our hands, in our fingers, and in more or less in our feet. So we're going to continue with other sense. In this picture, you can see the structure of the skin. As you can see, there are a lot of cells receptors or a specialized structure called receptors. In this case, we have the free nerve endings, we have the ruffinic corpuscle, we have the wolf's hair, so this is the hair in our skin. We have Merck cells, that is tactile disc, the tactile corpuscle called Meissner corpuscle, and lamellated corpuscle called Pacinian corpuscle. So all of these structures with strange names are receptors. That receptors perceive different stimulus, and we already know, for instance, pressure, for instance, temperature, or pain. So this is the structure that we have in our skin that allow us to have this touch sense. So let's continue. Now we're going to talk about the sight or vision sense. Vision or sight is the ability to sense light and see. The eye is the special sensory organ that collects and focuses light and form images. Yeah, so our eyes are that specialized organ that allow us to receive light. Inside of our eye, we have specialized receptors that perceive the different types of light. We have receptors to see 3 different light colors: red, green, and blue. Yes, so that light colors, yes, allow to us to form all the colors and all the forms and perceive all the things that we see in our environment. When we perceive the light, then our eyes send that signals, yes, remember that is called nerve impulse. So our eyes send that signals to our brain, and in our brain we perceive the images. So we can see this is a car or this is a computer, yes. Now we're going to see the structure of our eye. In this picture, we can see the anatomy of the eye. So our eye moves because we have muscles. We have blood vessels because all our cells need oxygen and nutrients. We have this little picture that is called optic disc, that is what is the nerve. We have the retina. In our retina, there are the photoreceptors to capture the light. We have the choroid, the sclera, that are layers that protect the eye. We have the cornea. Cornea is transparent in order to allow the light pass through the eye. We have the lens, the pupil. The pupil is that black hole that we have in our eye that help us to receive light. When we are in a space with a lot of light, this pupil is little and it turns bigger when we are in a dark place. Finally, we have our iris. Our iris is that part of our eye that have the color. For in my case, my eyes are coffee or brown. Yes, so this is the iris. Okay, we're going to continue with another sense. Hearing. Hearing is the ability to sense sound waves. So the sounds are vibration that move in the air as waves. The ear is the organ that sends sound. So inside of our ear, we're going to find mechanoreceptors that perceive that vibration, that waves produced by the sound. Then send the information to our brain by signals called nerve impulse, and in this case we can listen the sounds to understand what is happening. Now in this picture we have the anatomy of our ear. Our ear is divided in three principal parts. The outer ear, that is the external part. Then we have the middle ear, and finally we have the inner ear. So in the outer ear, the external part, we have the ear canal, that is this part of our ear. Inside we have the middle ear, and in this part we're going to find three little bones that are called malleus, incus, and stapes. These little bones perceive the vibration of our tympanus and then pass the vibration from the tympanus to this part that is the inner ear, where we can find this structure called cochlea, where we can perceive or change that vibration in our receptors, mechanoreceptors, remember, and then we can pass this information through this nerve that pass information to our brain. Inside of our ear, we're going to find an organ called semicircular canals that allow to us to feel the balance. Yes, so now we're going to see that different sense that is perceived in our ears too. Now we're going to talk about balance. Balance is the ability to sense and maintain an appropriate body position. So this is because we can walk without to fall in front of our body because we have balance. These balance sense are perceived in our ear, specifically in our inner ear, where we can find this structure. And in this part, semicircular ducts, there are a liquid. That liquid moves when we move. And this is because sometimes when we move a lot, for instance, in a bus, we lose the balance and we get sick. Yes? So remember, the ears are also responsible for the sense of balance and the hearing sense. Let's continue. Now we're going to talk about taste and smell. Taste and smell are related senses because these two senses have chemoreceptors. The taste and smell have the abilities to sense chemicals. So, for instance, our tongue have receptors to perceive flavors or to taste, and our nose have receptors to perceive odors, that are chemicals that are present in the air so we can smell it. So we're going to see the structure of the taste and smell sense. Now in these pictures we can see the anatomy of tongue and nasal passages. First, we're going to talk about tongue, that is the organ related with the taste sense. In our tongue, we have little structures that have these little points that are called buds. These are taste buds, and these structures have the receptors to perceive the different flavors. So we can say if something is sweet, or if something is salty, or if something is sour, because we have these structures that have the receptors. In the other hand, we have the structure of the smell sense. The smell sense is located in our nose, specifically in our nasal passages. Inside of our nose, we're going to find this yellow structure the picture is yellow, but it doesn't have that structure that color in our body. That is called olfactory nerve. Olfactory nerve, that cells that perceive the smells, also the smell of our food. Then this nerve sends the signals to the brain, and we can perceive different smell in the air. Okay, this was all for today. I hope that you have learned about the sense and the receptors. We're going to continue working this topic in class. Remember to take notes, and please replay this video, pause this video, take your notes as many times as you need, because we need that you understand these topics. I'm going to love you an activity to practice these topics, and of course remember to practice the vocabulary of this presentation. So see you, bye bye, have a good day.